Folks, welcome into the Crossing Swords Postgame Report. I'm your host, Ty B, and we got Dwayne here to break down the Buffalo Sabres 5-3 win at the Philadelphia Flyers. 3 late goals in that one to come back and get a big win. And it's just nice to see from a team with so many young players and them having a big part of this comeback, Dwayne. It's very good to see, and we're getting a lot out of the Granato coach Sabres.
Oh, for sure. And here, the biggest difference to me, outside of the obvious, which we're seeing better play out of guys like most noticeably Casey Middlestat, even Tage Thompson. The biggest thing is they're not out of it anymore. Like under Ralph Kruger, you could tell right from the jump that they were just out of it. They weren't in the games. They weren't just mentally ready to go from the first faceoff. This team is different. They're even when they're down. Even the games they've lost, even the last games, like they weren't ever out of it. You never sat there and watched like, oh my God, they're gonna get toast, they're gonna get cooked tonight. Like this game's over before it even started. It's not like that under Granato, and that's a big part of the mental side of coaching, making sure your guys are focused from in their pregame routines. Maybe in between games practices, making sure they're always mentally there and ready to go. And that's so much that responsibility lies on the coach. And you could just see it's night and day between him and Kruger.
Absolutely. I think you just see so many of these guys playing so much more free. I mean, Rasmus Asplund was pretty much buried with Ralph Kruger, whether it was down in Rochester the past few seasons and just, barely stepping in when he had a chance. And we saw some positive numbers from him in his other opportunities. And now we're finally seeing him flourish as well with some of these young players out there, Casey Middlestat to be one, Tage Thompson to be the other. They've actually been playing, I think, the most minutes out of any of the forward lines over the past few games, which is absolutely insane. Like if you had told me that before the season, at any point, those three would be leading the Sabres forwards on ice time, I would just laugh in your face and be like, we're getting smoked every game. And they're somehow beating the Philadelphia Flyers with Carter Hart in net. It's kind of a crapshoot from, the beginning of the season. Everything that's happened with Carter Hart and the way that they've played lately, they're playing themselves right out of the playoffs. But you still can't say enough about this Sabres performance. Arttu Ruotsalainen, Tage Thompson, Casey Middlestat. These guys look like they're probably here to stay, Dwayne.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm going to be just like I was me, like many other Buffalo Bills fans halfway through the season. I'm going to be one of the first Casey Middlestat apologists. I'll do it right now. I after you saw what Rasmus Dahlin did in the offseason, the size he put on his own, exactly what he did, what he went and did on his own to get his game to the next level, putting on like 16 to 20 pounds of muscle. And you saw how Casey Middlestat actually came in lighter. Like fans had every right to be critical. You had every right to be critical because you weren't seeing that drive away from the ice rink to get to the next level, to be a better player, to be a better professional hockey player. With Casey, maybe it was a big coaching thing. You definitely see him performing a lot better over the last 15 to 20 games. And it's very, very, very noticeable, especially under Granato. And I can't say more better things enough, I'm waiting for him to pop up here in the chat. Christian Wheeler my buddy Christian Wheeler would always give me shit about Casey Middleton because he loved Casey. I was like, dude, like he's 150 pounds, 180 pounds soaking wet. He's small. He's too small for the NHL. And now he's proving me wrong. And again, it's a coaching thing. It's putting him in better situations to succeed. Now, is he still living up to the 8th overall pick? No, he's not. But I mean, I think we're past that at this point. But you know what? He's proving that he could be a very serviceable second power play unit guy and could probably fill in on your third line for years to come. And I'm so over the moon happy about that because, what were we expecting from him to start the season? Not much. And we're getting he's been one of our better offensive players. Granted, that ice time can obviously go directly because guys like Jack Eichel haven't been in the lineup, who, would probably be eating up about 25 minutes a night. But again, these guys you're asking, next man up, these guys are performing much better than expected. And why did it take Ristolainen so long to get into this lineup? Because
it blows
he's
my mind.
performing better than expected.
Yep, absolutely. And I mean, when you look at his numbers and what he did over there, and especially to start this season over in Europe before coming over to play for the Amherst, I think he was a point per game guy, and that's very impressive in that league. And my buddy Brad here brings up a very good point. They're beating up on these bottom teams here in the division, the teams that are going to miss the playoffs. I believe they're actually over 500. It's like 9, 8, and 5 or something like that. And they have one win against the rest of the teams in the division. So obviously, you're still not beating those teams, but we've seen better performances against them as of late. And I think, you might be able to squeeze a couple out here, even though it looks like you're probably going to be losing Taylor Hall here before the deadline hits tomorrow, Dwayne.
Yeah, I mean, maybe even before we get done with this post-game show, Darren Jager reported that all sources to him indicate that there is a trade that's very close. So clearly Kevin Adams is on the phones. I don't think that's the only domino that's going to fall after the Brandon Montour. I think you look at guys like Toby Reeder. I think he could be on his way out. I've been hearing a lot of Rasmus Ristolainen stuff. That a lot of phone calls are made about him. Last year this time I said, yeah, get him out of here. I can't deny the work ethic that guy has and the amount of crap he's put up with since coming to this organization. So do I need Rasmus Ristolainen to be traded? Not exactly. But, it would depend on the return because after Taylor Hall, I think that is the best trade piece you have because I don't think the Sabres are trading away Sam Reinhart. I don't think that's happening. But I definitely – Taylor Hall looks like he could be on his way out by the end of the night.
Yep, absolutely. And I think when you look at Rasmus Ristolainen, he had such a great start to the season, and he's regressed a bunch since not being able to play with Jake McCabe. So I think that was a big part of it, whether it's just McCabe taking a big step forward this year or if they just had some elite level chemistry and they'll only be able to do it together. I don't know what it is, but we won't be able to get a good gauge of that. Like, I wouldn't mind them shipping him. I think it frees up some of your money going forward as well. Gives you a lot more space, wiggle room if you want, going into free agency this year. And, the big names aren't necessarily there in free agency, Dwayne, because you don't want to end up overspending on any of these guys. You see it, with these lower tier guys. You can get someone who fits into your system well, and they have, a little bit of a resurgence. And we're seeing that happen kind of all across the league, especially with everyone having to take these shorter term deals and betting on themselves. So, I think that's a route you go, and then you look to maybe make a trade with some of these first round picks or whatever assets you're bringing in. Use some of those for a team who looks like they're going to be entering a rebuild. You might be able to take a couple pieces that slot directly into your team ready to go, Dwayne.
Absolutely. And, I've said it a few times already, for the fans who think that this team is like 5-6 years away from being good, I disagree. I think that in the short term, you can fix a lot of issues on this team in free agency with short term, low financially, financially not going to cost you a lot. Yeah. Contracts, I probably worded that, awkwardly, but it's going to be a very similar offseason compared to last year. And on top of that,
especially the trade, on
top of that, you have an expansion draft coming up too. So there's going to be a lot of activity in the offseason, not even in just free agency. But I think you're going to get a lot of very, very serviceable players. Guys like Florida's doing it right. I can't believe I'm saying that. Florida is absolutely knocking it out of the park right now. Outside of the fact that they signed a goalie to a $10 million a year contract, they signed guys to short-term deals to fill holes. And that's why honest to God, they're a dark horse for me coming out of the East, going to the playoffs. They signed Nikita Gusev today, correct? It was Nikita Gusev today.
Yeah.
That's a great signing. $1 million. Look, what is that? And that guy's probably going to fill out your third line. He's going to produce on a team that's better offensively than where he was, I believe, with New Jersey.
Yeah.
So that's what you need to do. Like, you should take that blueprint with what I can't believe again I'm saying this, with what the Florida Panthers did this offseason and this entire season, and just go with that blueprint going into this offseason. sign guys similar to the style of like guys like, Carter Verhaeghe, Anthony Duclair, Nikita Gusev on these short-term 1 to 2 year deals that aren't going to cost you a lot. Like, I mean, I heard that like the Cody Eakin thing was more or less a Ralph Kruger thing. He wanted Eakin. He thought that Eakin fit well into his system. I don't know how much truth there is behind that.
Yeah, he must not have been looking at Eakin's numbers over the past years because they're just as bad here.
Let's like mind blowing that we thought Ralph Kruger was this big analytics guy who looked at the numbers, who studied that part of the game, and everything he did this season.
That's why when I hate having some of these fans like shit on the analytics community. It's like the team may have they may have an analytics department, but they obviously don't listen to them well. Like it's very obvious that the decisions aren't analytically influenced, Dwayne.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he went against the grain over everything he preached that he did well, Ralph Kruger, this season. And it was really, again, the only really bright spot you can probably find out of what Ralph Kruger did was, as you mentioned earlier, like the resurgence of Rasmus Ristolainen. But again, now that Jake McCabe's gone, that pairing, I guess, like you go back, you think about, remember when Tony Ludeman and Hank Tallinder were together, and those guys were like a great pairing together. Like that's what I think of when I thought about Jake McCabe and Ristolainen. Those guys just meshed well together. They fit each other's styles. You can't find that with anybody else for Ristolainen outside of McCabe, which sucks. But again, I do want to see him continue to trend upward. But if that's the only guy you can get that to play out of him, is he really worth keeping around? Because you just need him to be consistent no matter who his partner is. So I don't know. It's it sucks, but I'm excited for the next 24 hours, man. I can't stress that enough. Tomorrow with 2 goalies, 1 mic, we're gonna be going live a lot throughout the day. 15 to 20-minute segments. I'll
be around, so I'll be helping you.
I can't wait. Tomorrow, especially as a Sabres fan over the last decade, tomorrow is like one of the most exciting days of the year, which is sad because it's like, oh hey, who are we? What garbage are we shipping away now to bring in?
Yeah, what assets do we have going forward? And then you can you can hop into your NHL career mode, and you can start messing around and see what you can do going forward and what you can create and the pipe dreams we can all have going into the next season, Dwayne.
I'm excited. So, let's see what happens here going into the night. We always know, trade deadline eve is always pretty active too. I know we got WrestleMania tonight, but we're obviously going to be keeping you updated on that. Crossing Swords.
And so Dwayne, with Dreger, he just put out another tweet. He said it's believed 3 teams remain in the mix for Hall. So still not hearing the teams. We've heard, the Islanders may be kicking their tires still, looking to add more offensively. I don't know if, they have the assets, if the Sabres are really looking to get a first-round pick. Their top prospect that they could maybe send back is like a guy like Kiefer Bellows. I don't know if I'm all about a move like that. I don't think he fits in very well, but I think you had some other teams dealing with some injuries this past week. I think Nashville could be a name that Taylor Hall could be in the mix for, Dwayne.
Yeah, I could definitely see Nashville being in the mix for a Taylor Hall. And there's a lot of guys, that, are expendable on that team. I don't think Ekholm is on his way out, at least this season. I think since those rumors were kind of out, he's really not that he stepped up his game, but I think Nashville as a whole has kind of stepped up their game. So they're trying to make a push right now. I could see him going to Boston, man. I think Boston might be one of those 3 teams.
Well, I think they need more help defensively than they do with the forwards. I don't even think you could name one of their defenders on there that started today for them.
What about Pittsburgh? I'm not familiar where Pittsburgh is in the standings right now, but I'm sure Pittsburgh would love a guy like Taylor Hall on the wing of Sidney Crosby.
Yeah, absolutely. I think they could be a team that's in. It just depends, do they feel like giving up their first round pick for the 12th year in a row? But it's good to see that more than one team is in on them, because then you're probably going to see them get that first round pick in return as we get closer and closer to this deadline, because Taylor Hall is a former MVP, and especially if you're a team that's right there on the fringe of the playoffs, like that's a great guy you want to add because even if you do end up missing, you're going to win the draft lottery, Dwayne.
Absolutely.
He's
It's funny actually. Wouldn't it be something, dude? If that I know it's a running joke, but wouldn't it be something if they did trade like Taylor Hall for Larson straight up? Like that would just be comedic, like classic Oilers. I mentioned earlier in the week it'd be so funny and so depressing if like a deal with Edmonton also included Dominic Cahoon because we just could have signed him before we go in free agency. It's just that's just the way things have gone for this team. But I know. Do you really think Edmonton's in the mix though?
I mean,
it's wild.
I don't know. I don't know if they are. I mean, they should be if you look at the team, but like when you think about how the NHL actually is and like their sort of reluctance and like the way that they push people out, like they don't want to bring them back into those situations. So I don't know, like if that's really the recipe.
If you're Taylor Hall and you get told that you've just been traded back to Edmonton, what is the first thought that's running through your head?
I mean, at least like put me on a line with McDavid.
Yeah,
that's my.
I mean, it's a great thing, but it's like I can't imagine things always ended very well between Hall and Edmonton with the way things just kind of transpired over the years. I don't know, man. And especially you got to wait 2 weeks to even join the team.
Especially if you're going to Canada. So yeah, I think that could be something that forces one of those teams to be out. Maybe Reeder or Sheehan getting moved. Yeah, I could see that for a later round pick because I think Sheehan, he's a guy that was added, right before the season started, a straight free agent, and he's played pretty well for this team. I think, a team who has some injuries there in your bottom six, that could be someone that you can easily add in. And he's played for some teams who've had some success. He's played for Pittsburgh in the past. So he's a good name. And yeah, Reeder's played pretty well for the Sabres, much better than Eakin has. And I mean, we've seen his numbers away from Eakin, and it proves that he can still be a good, serviceable player here, Dwayne.
Yeah, and another thing too is how well has Reinhart played at center since Granato's made that switch. I know me and you have had the conversation with Brett a couple times, but finally you have a coach that's forced Reinhart to play the position he was drafted to play, and it's worked out well. So if that trend continues and Reinhart still produces, maybe not at I would much rather see Sam Reinhart give me 50 to 60 points at center in a second line role, and I'm more willing to pay him $6 to $7 million to do that than I am to pay him $6 to $7 million to play on a first line alongside Jack for the same amount of points. Because it's been proven time and time again, when you have an elite, it's easier to get goals from average at best wingers when you have an elite center than it is to get goals from an elite, an elite winger out of an average to mediocre center. I mean, I think you saw that last year with Skinner playing with Marcus Johansson at center most of the season, and then more so this year out of Skinner. Like it's just proven you can get more production out of an average winger with an elite center than vice versa.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you with that. And then that kind of, you have a little bit of an embarrassment of riches there at center, where a spot that we've sort of complained about over the last few months, the last few years, Dwayne, because then you still have you got Middlestat right there, and you still have Dylan Cousins who can play center. He can also play wing. He's done well at both positions, and it's same thing with Middlestat. So like it gives you some options there, and you don't just have to slot guys in, and you can move people around when things aren't working as well. You know what I mean? So I think that flexibility would be nice for them going forward. We'll see, what they decide to do with all this. I think getting Jack back, we can hopefully, before the end of the year here, and we can see, what this team could possibly look like going into next season, and see where you can slot in and find some holes, find some gaps within the roster. I think it's going to be awesome here going into trade deadline. Ton to talk about, Dwayne. We're going to be all over it. Hopefully this news doesn't break during WrestleMania, but we are planning on going live a few times during WrestleMania, I believe. So,
and David Pagnotta from the fourthperiod.com just tweeted out piggybacking off Drager, it's getting much closer. So I think this honestly might get done in the next couple hours.
Yeah.
For sure. I mean, I hope it's before WrestleMania, but I don't think it's, unwise to think that it could get possibly done before, maybe the hour's out, maybe before 7 o'clock. I mean, I'm not predicting anything, but just everything I'm seeing on Twitter from, the guys you would expect to see report this, guys like Darren Drager, Elliot Freeman, David Pagnotta, Pierre LeBrun, they're all indicating that that is very, very close. Kevin Adams is on the phones and he's, hopefully working his magic. And again, I don't need a first round pick, Kevin. We don't need a first round pick. Get us players, get us prospects. It's such a crapshoot end of first round picks. It really, really is. Get me prospects that are ready to.
If they do get the first round pick, use it, package it in the summer.
Yeah, exactly. That too.
We don't need to make that pick. But
yeah,
thank you, Dwayne, for joining me here on the Crossing Swords post-game report. We're going to have more throughout the day and tomorrow for the trade deadline. So make sure you guys are following at Crosswords Pod and at 2 Goalies 1 Mike, where we'll be going live a bunch. And make sure you get over to Amherst Ale House for any of the remaining Sabres games the rest of the year, because they have half off pitchers of Labatt Blue and Blue Light, also Coors Light and Molson, and half price medium pepperoni pizzas during all Sabres games until they win the Stanley Cup. So it looks like that deal is going to be carrying over to next season as well. Dwayne, the Sabres are going to be the first team here eliminated from the playoffs in the next day or two. Unfortunately, but it is what it is, as you always say. So
it is what it is, and it sucks so much.
Yeah, we'll be back with more, like I said, throughout the day and tomorrow for the trade deadline. Make sure you stay tuned. And we're going to have a bunch of WrestleMania content for you guys later on. A huge night too. Some big matches. Absolutely can't wait.
I can't wait for the Daniel Bryan, Reigns, and Edge match. I think that will absolutely steal the night. I just think you have 3 unbelievable performers in there with a great storyline leading into it. So I'm excited for that.
Absolutely. And Dwayne, we got 3 words left. Let's go, Buffalo.